The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Hi everyone. Today on Aging Horizons, we're going to be talking about an extremely important topic, lifespan respite. You might not even know what that is, but respite is for a person who just needs a break. Maybe they're a caregiver, they need to go shopping, they need to take a nap, they just want a little break. And we're going to talk about that today and how you can access that. So stay with us, it's great information.
I think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
If the Aging Network in Montana was a restaurant, the sign out front would say, over 50 million meals served over the last 30 years. Since adequate nutrition is critical to health and quality of life, nutrition services are an important factor in keeping older Montanans healthy, independent, and living in their community and home. To find out more about senior nutrition programs in your area, call 1-800-551-3191.
Final call from Flight 566.
Hello, gentlemen. May I see your Montana Real IDs?
IDs? Why, I'm Captain Meriwether Lewis.
And I'm Captain William Clark.
Hang on, I see more than one William Clark.
It's the real me, I promise.
Discover more at mtrealid.gov. Available now.
Montana Real ID. It's the real me.
And me.
Elder abuse is a growing problem, and it's happening right here in our Montana communities. At least 1 in 10 older adults are victims of physical or emotional abuse, financial exploitation, or neglect. To get help or report elder abuse, call your local area agency on aging or Adult Protective Services at 1-844-277-9300.
Hello everyone and welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. I'm your host, Kimmy Everman, and today we're going to be talking about what I believe to be a really important topic, respite, or the Lifespan Respite Project. We have two ladies with us today from DEAP, which is DEAP, the Developmental Educational Assistance Program. We have Brooke Bartholomew, and Brooke, you're the Executive Director at DEAP. Mm-hmm. And we also have Vicki Clear. And Vicki, you are a Lifespan Respite Program Director at DEAP.
Yes.
And I'm going to stay with you because Lifespan Respite, why is DEAP even involved with that? Because you guys have done some other things over the years, but now you tell me that you've got some good respite history with DEAP.
We do. We have actually had a Lifespan Respite program for 20 years.
Wow.
We started it in 1998, and it was just in the 17 counties of eastern Montana. Mm-hmm. And I worked with the National Legislation Committee to get the legislation passed that provides these grants that now we have through senior and long-term care.
Oh, great. So your ability to have done this so much in the past brings a lot of historical knowledge with, and so you're collaborating on this project with the Office on DPHHS.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yes, they asked us to contract to actually run the program and do a lot of the groundwork and do the voucher program, and it's just been a great addition to our agency to be able to provide that.
Well, as you and I have talked many times, it's a really important service, isn't it? Brooke, let's go to you, and let's just first of all talk about, what is a caregiver?
I would say almost everybody in Montana is a caregiver. We're always helping take care of other people in our lives. But the caregivers we're talking about today would be caregivers who are providing constant care to a loved one, whether it be a senior, their mother, their father, their child with a disability, anyone throughout the lifespan that they're providing constant care to. Caregivers are parents, siblings, grandparents, wives, husbands. There's a lot of people who would be considered caregivers in Montana.
And they're a huge unpaid group of people, aren't they?
There's some really amazing statistics out there. We find that 118,000 family members are caregivers and providing care from their hearts, loving care to people in their families, and that ends up being about 110 million hours of unpaid care, and it equals about $1.4 billion annually. And it's all just coming from the heart. These people just are doing what they think is right for their family members and the people that they care for, but that sure takes a toll on them.
Well, yeah, and I know when my dad was ill and dying, my mom felt it was her duty. I mean, she would have done it anyway, but from her heart, but she felt that as the spouse, it was her duty, and I imagine a lot of people see it that way.
Yeah, a lot of people really feel like it's their job to take care of their loved ones, which is probably true, but we also realize that you need a break too. You know, nobody can work 24/7, 365.
Right. Do you find that a lot of these folks are also working full-time jobs, have their own families, etc.?
Yeah.
Because I think, isn't that what they call the sandwich generation, where where we're sort of taking care of everybody. And just those numbers, $1.4 billion annually, that's huge.
Sure. And it sure saves taxpayers a lot of dollars too, this program does, because the idea is because people are able to stay at home longer, they're not having to go to the higher level of care, such as a nursing home or maybe a group home for a child with a disability, that they have a higher quality of life to stay with their loved ones.
Sure. So, Vicki, you know, this isn't brain surgery, but why is respite so important for that caregiver? Give us a few ideas of what really is going on there.
They put so much effort into caring for their loved one that they forget to take care of themselves. And then what happens is something happens to them, they get ill, and oftentimes they pass away before their loved one.
Oh, yes.
And then what happens? You know, a lot of them don't plan ahead for what happens, and then someone else has to take care of that. And if they'd have just had respite and took care of themselves, they may, live longer, be happier. The care for both of them is better.
Right.
The person being taken care of, it's good for them to see someone else too. And they grow and they get such a bond with their person that cares for them. It's really amazing how that works out.
Yeah, and I think you're right that they put so much of themselves into it that you can lose a part of your own humanness and forget that you're on earth for something besides that, right? So do you because you've been doing it for so many years at Deep, do you think that people really are willing to step up to get that respite?
At first we thought, well, I don't know, but more and more they are calling, and I think word of mouth. They hear someone else that's done it, and once they go, well, maybe, I'll try it. So they do an hour, and they found out how wonderful it is. So maybe they take a couple more, or they do a trip out of town to do something for themselves, or they go to yoga, they work out. One guy trains for a marathon every year, and so he uses the respite for that. I mean, I'm thinking that's awesome, But and then they realize how important it is, and they just want to keep doing it.
Right.
So I just think it's a huge thing.
Yeah.
There are still some people that are resistant.
Yes.
And oftentimes they wait longer than they should.
Yeah.
Until they're so burned out that it's almost too late.
Yeah.
But we're trying to get the word out to keep that from happening.
Okay. Well, I couldn't agree more, and we don't want to let those folks be out there all by themselves. And folks, this is something that there's no shame in asking for some help and reaching out, and just asking for a little bit of support. Remember what Vicki said: if you're not healthy yourself, you cannot be a good caregiver for somebody that's a family member, friend, whatever. But we have a lot more to talk about. We want you to be informed, so stay with us.
You mean I can get help paying my prescription drug premiums?
Let me get this straight. I could be eligible for help with my family's prescription premiums even though I own my own home?
And our assets won't be counted.
If you're a Montana resident enrolled in the Medicare prescription drug program, you could be eligible for help paying your premiums. Call or visit the Big Sky RX website today to find out, even if you think you're over income.
What do you know about that? I'm eligible.
I was outside working on some equipment, nothing too strenuous. I started sweating and feeling out of breath.
When he felt pressure in his chest and aching in his arms, I knew we had to call 911.
First responders were there before we knew it. 38 minutes later, the doctors had restored the blood flow to my heart.
Now we know dialing 911 saved his life.
Your life is on the line.
This message sponsored by Mission Lifeline Montana.
Separate raw meats from other foods by using different cutting boards. 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Aging Horizons. We're here talking about lifespan respite today, and a couple of great guests with us. We have Vicki Clear from DEEP, and we also have Brooke Bartholomew from DEEP. And Brooke, let's start with you. In terms of respite, now we talked about that can be any number of things, from a trip to just a nap in another room to whatever you need it to be. But how do I know if I need respite? What would be some red flags for me?
Well, hopefully you start using respite before you get to some of the red flags. Is just understanding that your cup needs to be full to share that cup of love with somebody else. Right. But some of the signs of caregiver stress that we find is becoming easy to anger, maybe feeling isolated. Some people, like we talked about before, may be working a full-time job and then going home and caring for their loved one. So they have absolutely no time to get out and socialize with their friends or do some preferred activities. Like you said, a nap, or maybe going for a walk, or just meeting up with friends for coffee. Sometimes people just feel exhausted. They just can't concentrate on what they are trying to do, maybe getting irritable. And sometimes we'll see people who are providing this constant care and giving 100% of the time, is that they start having health issues themselves too. So it's just so important to just take a minute for yourself and to take care of yourself so that you can take care of others, whether that's, taking a day off, a weekend off, or even an hour. As a mother, I think about, if I could just get away for 1 hour to take a nap, that would feel really good. Right. And we just always try to be everything to everyone. And so if we can just take a moment to do something for ourselves, that is just so important.
And not feel guilty about that.
That's it. Yep. Not feel guilty.
Because I think, a lot of times women, that's a double whammy. You feel guilty about everything anyway. And then, you put this into the mix, and it can be a difficult place to be emotionally.
Yep, it is. But it's just so important to just step back and say, it is kind of hard at first, but then you kind of get used to it and feel like, after that nap, I came back and I wasn't so irritable. I wasn't so short-fused. I was happy to be working with my loved one again. It doesn't feel like such a duty then, too, if you can take a little break and have a little time for yourself. And like I said, kind of fill back up your cup so that you can share it with others.
So that brings a question to mind for me, though. I don't mean to be negative about this, but what if the person that you're caring for is not happy that you want a respite? How do we handle something like that? Does that ever happen even?
Sometimes I think. They just... And maybe Vicki can talk a little bit more about this, but I think that I think that sometimes after they have that little break, and they themselves get a break from the person who's providing that constant care.
So they see
get
it's not
somebody
such a
else
bad
to
thing.
help them. Yep, and they build a new friendship or a new companionship there that helps them grow as well. So it's not something that people should be too upset about. I don't think.
Good. I mean, Vicki, you've seen a lot. Does that happen?
It has. We had a gentleman that had Alzheimer's, and he was like, no one's going to help me. And so in that instance, we just explained that it really wasn't for him. It was for his wife, and he really loved her. And did he, wouldn't he like to just kind of give her a break so she could do something for herself?
And that he could get with.
Yep, and then he was like, okay. And so the provider would come in, she goes, okay, we're going to shave today. And he'd go, no, we're not. And she's going, sure we are. Okay. She just had a way with him, and they just got along great. But for him, then he was doing something for his wife. And sometimes that works. And I've suggested other people to do that too.
So it's really, it's like so many other things in life, it's the way it's presented that can be very important.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And respite comes in so many different shapes and sizes too. Of it could be the loved one is there, the caregiver is there, and is just maybe taking a nap or what have you. But the respite could also be sitting in the home and helping with dishes. Vicki tells a story of if somebody is not comfortable with respite, maybe you start with just going over to have a conversation and help with the dishes and help with something that is the constant care of that person.
What a great
without
idea.
the person even having to really leave. But it kind of breaks the ice and builds that friendship. You can never have too many people in your life that care about you.
That's true, and never too many people doing dishes. They can, they can come to my house and do that. And I think that's a pretty great little tip to start, because I think there are folks who think, I wonder if my person would be okay with that. That's a great way to start it off, and just let that person get kind of used to that other person and being in their space. Vicki, so how does a person go about applying for this?
You can download the application off our website.
Okay, we'll put it up so you don't have to you don't have to say it off. Put it on the screen.
You can print it out, and you can email, fax, or mail it to us. Doesn't matter. Or you can call me, and I can send out the application to you. And then you just fill it out, and it comes back to me.
Okay. And it's, I'm assuming, not a big deal, just a few pages, nothing to get worried about. And just fill it out and send it back, and you might find out you have some respite coming that you could really use, right?
Yes, and it's actually a really short application. You just fill out a few things. There are a few things that accompany it, but anyone that's a caregiver deserves respite. So we work with them, and once they send it back to me, then I call back to them and have a little conversation and kind of get to know them, which is one of the best parts of the job. And then we just kind of go from there.
Super. Well, folks, it sounds pretty easy to me. I hope that we have people coming to get this respite just based on that tiny little bit of what it takes to sign up. It's not very big deal. It's not a very big deal, and you might find out that you get a little time coming that is really going to help refill your cup and make you a happier, healthier person. Again, we have a whole lot more to tell you about, and we don't want you to go anywhere. We want you to have the whole story, so stay with us.
Providing long-term care for someone in need is a labor of love, but it is a labor. Time apart is healthy and necessary both for the caregiver and the person receiving care. It allows each a respite, time to relax and recharge. If you're a long-term caregiver, visit the new LifespanRespite website. Financial assistance may be available. Respite for caregivers. It's okay to need it. It's okay to want it. It's okay to get it.
I've been shooting since I was young. It's something I've always enjoyed. I wasn't feeling like myself, but my friend noticed. He asked if he could hold onto my guns temporarily. At first, I was a little shocked, but then I agreed. I think he saved my life that day.
The face of the American workforce is changing. People are healthier, living longer, and living better. Baby boomers are a valuable resource for the workplace of today and tomorrow. They're still active and eager to help. Experience, dedication, wisdom, these are just some of the significant assets older workers bring to the job. Age is an asset, experience a benefit.
I'm Attorney General Tim Fox. Nowadays, all of you have to worry about cybersecurity. Something as simple as visiting pirate websites can put your computer at risk. Hackers use pirate websites to infect your computer and steal your ID and financial information, or even take over your computer camera without you knowing it. Don't let hackers into your house. Be careful with the websites you visit and warn your kids on how to stay safe online. To learn more, visit my website.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Aging Horizons, and we're here talking about respite today, or the Lifespan Respite program here in Montana. Now, Vicki, we were talking before we left about people applying for respite. How long does that usually take?
Once they fill out the paperwork and I get it, I just process it, go through it, and within 2 days I will give them a call back, unless it's a weekend, of course, but call right back and explain to them that this is what they've got and how much money they can spend and how it works. And I mean, if it's a crisis, we rush it through and can do it the next day or whatever. I mean, we can just, it's very quick.
Okay.
There's no waiting because caregivers don't have time to wait.
Yeah, and you two clearly know that. I mean, I'm sure your whole team does. But let's walk back a bit to, you said that, you call that person and you sort of go through what they can expect. So go through that with us. Okay. I'm the one.
Yes, I know. Okay. Well, when they call, I say, we are able to give you some money that you can hire someone to give you a break. You can hire anyone that's over 18 and doesn't live with the person they're taking care of, or you may use an agency. Whichever one. If you hire someone on your own, you set your own rate of pay, so depending on the rate, it's the number of hours you receive. And then it's really flexible what you would like them to do or how long. It can be a day, it can be an hour. If it's a week, maybe. If some people that's what suits their need, then they can do that. And then they turn in reimbursements to me, because they can either pay the provider ahead of time before they turn it in, or they can pay them after they get a reimbursement from us, which we have back to them in 2 weeks. And then they can turn those in as often as they want. At first, people thought they had to spend all the money first, but they don't. They can turn it in as often as they want, so they're not out of a lot of money. And it's a really quick turnaround, and I think people love that. It's one of the things they love the most about respite.
Well, I think, we talk about the importance of it. We talk about how a person needs it to be able to be a better person and caregiver, and the thought that it was going to take a long time to get it set up, that would just really...
That's respite itself.
Exactly. And so we want to make sure that it does go quickly, and that's why it's so nice to have an agency like yours, where you guys have been doing this a long time, so you really understand the needs and how it all kind of functions along.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Now, I know you have a great success story.
I do.
Let's hear that, because I always like to hear the stories.
I love the stories. It's the best part of the job is the stories and the people. I have a lady that I talk to often. She sends me notes. I love it because it keeps me up on what's going on with her. The first time that she applied for respite, she's in kind of a remote area, not a lot of options for a provider. And so she said she would try, and what happened was that she had taken care of her husband. It had been 30 years she'd been taking care of him. At the start, it wasn't as much, but then it got more and more, and it had been 30 years. She hadn't seen her sister. She hadn't been away. At 30 years, she'd been in the house with him, and her sister's daughter was getting married, and she really wanted to go to the wedding and see her sister, which... who wouldn't?
Of course, yeah.
And so they found a friend of theirs in California that had been a friend of theirs for 40 years. And because they had the respite funds, could afford to pay his way to drive out and stay with his friend while she went to this wedding. And she was so excited. She was just really excited.
I'm sure.
And then after getting a taste of that, of course, she thought, oh, this is awesome. So she looked around and she found a perfect respite provider in the area that would come in, and her husband had broken his shoulder and his arm, and she would help him dress. She even washed his hair. She made sure he ate. She even took care of their dog. I mean, and then they sit and watch TV together. It's amazing. This group is it's a great story. And she said, she has a little, her statement was, as soon as I got in the car and on the road, I felt a huge weight come off my shoulders. And now she takes like one day a month and goes with a friend to another town, and they have lunch, get their hair done, do a little shopping, just kind of enjoy herself. And it's just made a huge difference because she also has medical issues.
I'm getting the chills.
So it's
and I am.
Story.
It is, because that every time you do have one of those happen, one more person is feeling better about their life, and actually that ripple effect of everybody else around them feeling better about their life.
It does.
Thank you, Vicki.
It makes me appreciate things too so much more when you talk to these people, because we don't have it near as bad as they do. Not even.
No, are you telling me not to complain? Now, Brooke, I know that before we finish today, I wanted to talk about, you guys have a great tagline for this program. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Our tagline is, it's okay to need it, it's okay to want it, and it's okay to get it. Oftentimes as Montanans.
Right on.
Oftentimes as Montanans especially, we're pulling our bootstraps up and doing what needs to get done to get the job done.
Yes.
Again, I just want to reiterate how important it is that if you aren't taking those little breaks, you can't, 30 years, that 32 years might not have ever happened if she couldn't have taken that break. So just making sure that it's really something that's helping everybody in the situation to just stop, take a minute, and take a minute for yourself, because it encourages, it gives you a chance to get better care. Sometimes people even use respite time to go get more training on maybe how to transfer people or how to do caregiver training better,
so
how
that they
to
can
provide
feel
the
more
care
capable.
better. So we're just a bunch of giving people here in Montana.
Yes, we are.
LifespanRespite is a program that actually gives back to the people who are giving.
Yeah.
So again, it's just okay to need it, it's okay to want it, and it's okay to get it.
Yep. And I can't agree more. I thank you both so very much for coming to talk with us today, because you couldn't be more spot on, and you know how I feel about respite and caregiving. Folks, please reach out. We want you to. Even if you think, oh, I don't know if I want to do this, reach out and talk to us. We'll put the number up, the website up, and maybe, just maybe, it'll be something for you. For Aging Horizons, I'm Kimmy Everman, and thanks for watching.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.